Okay, so to getting the flow of the Maimer. So the Maimer brought the Midrashim, the Medrash, that at the outset of creation, everything was water, submerged in water, which the Maimer explains is the Tohu state. Till finally, after two quote-unquote attempts, Hashem wishes to establish the world, and that's impeded by the water of the generation of Enosh, and then the flood, the Ramabel, and finally there he finds, or there emerges, these rocks. That's the forefathers in general, specifically Avraham, and there he begins the establishment of his world, the great mission to make the world his Medina, his palace, his home. So the Maimer speaks about the waters and explains that the water that is described at the outset of creation, that's the primal source of creation, which is Tohu. And from there, Tohu, there was the... One second. And from there, the Neshama, so it's from there, from Olam HaTohu, that the sparks fall, as it were, the Shviras HaKelim, embedded in and responsible for nature. And so these waters, as they are naturally embedded deeply in the world, in nature, are salty and undrinkable. This is all metaphoric. It's all metaphoric. So the Avodah is to sweeten these waters. And that's the Avodah of the Neshama. The Neshama comes down to the world to struggle with and ultimately tame and refine and channel and sublimate the body and the Nefesh HaBahamis, which all come from Olam HaTohu, that's their source. And in so doing, sweetening them and making them vehicles for the revelation of Hashem. And what revelation? Their source, their lofty source, Torah, which precedes even Tikkun Atzilus. The Rebbe added, and this is the important point here, that the Neshama in so doing itself is elevated. Because in order for the Neshama to be able to combat and transform the Nefesh HaBahamis, the Avodah that's required is an Avodah of Mesiras Nefesh, B'chol Ma'itcha. And that Avodah is unique to the Neshama in this world. There's no Avodah of B'chol Ma'itcha, no love, no exceeding crazy love, L'mayla. There it's tempered and rational and measured love. But here in this world, tested, challenged by the Nefesh HaBahamis and the Guf and so on, so this summons forth the depth of the Neshama. So in the Neshama's sweetening, as it were, of the salty waters of the Guf and Nefesh HaBahamis, in so doing, the Neshama unlocks its own essential source, as expressed in the Avodah of B'chol Ma'itcha. That's basically where we're up. Let's continue now at the bottom of page 174. Okay. Just someone's trying to get on and having trouble. So continuing okay, good. Continuing the bottom of page 174. Omnom kadei lagil lazer. It's easier said than done. In order to achieve this, that the salty waters become sweet waters. In other words, the bitter, the refinement of the Guf and Nefesh HaBahamis. As you say, Shuim bitter and Nefesh HaBahamis. But and so much so as described earlier, that this should affect in the Nefesh Elikis, an ascent in the service of God from B'chol Nafshecha to the Avodah B'chol Meitcha. So it's described in the Medrash that this wasn't an easy process. There was one generation, another generation, and they ended up being flooded. It means that the salty waters were not sweetened. So we need to be sure, Bavarna means to take measures to forewarn, that the salty waters, unrefined, shouldn't flood the foundations. And this is what the Medrash means when it says, so there was the first attempt, the generation of Enosh, and then the generation of the Deira Mabul, and they all ended up in destruction. Unbridled, untamed Nefesh Abamis destroys the world. Until he came and he found the Mostasham Tzur Godel, a great rock. Omar, the Medrash says, Kan, the Ibishter says, Kan and Ikeveis HaMedina LaTzurim Alolo. Now I will establish my state, my country, my palace, my home on these rocks, as expressed in the Pasuk, Merosh Tzurim, from the peaks of the rocks, I see him. Who does this refer to? Shema Ovis, that's the Ovis. Okay, Yadu, as it's known, Sherosh Tzurim, Bilam is speaking prophetically, that the head of the peaks of the rocks, so in Sherosh Ovis, the peaks, the head means the source of the Ovis. Now, what does that mean? We all know that the Ovis, each one embodied a different midden Avodas Hashem. Avram Chesed, Yitzchak, Gvura, and Yaakov Tiferes. That's the Tzurim. That's the rocks. The Rosh Tzurim, the head, the peaks, refers to what? This refers to the source, the root of the emotions of the godly soul, which is higher than intellect. The Mali Mitam V'das. They are not bound by the limits and rationale of intellect. We addressed this briefly yesterday. Even though the hierarchy of the faculties of the soul is intellect, chachma, bin adas, and then come the emotions. Classically, the emotions are born from intellect. You can't love something you don't understand or appreciate why it's lovable. You can't be in awe of something or fear it if you don't understand that it's fearful. And hence our emotions, which means our attractions and our fears, our loves and fears, evolve over time as the mind develops. Things that were lovable as a child, for the most part still remain lovable and attractive. How do they say? Boys, little toys, men, big toys or expensive toys. But they do change from little toys to expensive toys. That's because the awareness, the understanding of the value of the real car as opposed to the toy car. So on the one hand, it's intellect that gives birth to emotion. Hence, metaphorically, they're called parents. Chacham is father, Bin is mother, and the children are called the offshoots or the offspring of the intellect, as the Alter Rebbe explains in chapter 3 of Tanya. That's true. However, it's not as if the intellect gives birth to the emotion in the sense of that they create them out of nothing. What I'm saying is that the emotions are rooted in the nefesh, independent of seichel, and in fact higher than seichel. Which is why emotions are more powerful than intellect, because their source is higher. And this is a general paradox that repeats itself throughout life, as explained in Chassidus. The lower something is, the higher the source. So as we go down the faculties of the nefesh, and you get down to Malchus, which is the subject matter of today's Tanya, speech. And if you're learning it, in the lessons in Tanya, there's a very lengthy explanation of the Rebbe that they published in the Tanya. Just to point this out, these explanations of the Rebbe in the lessons in Tanya came as a result of Rabbi Weinberg giving the Shurim on the radio. And before Tanya Shurim, which is a big breakthrough, Chassidus on the radio. And he would submit all of the Shurim before, and the Rebbe would edit them and add sometimes a note or two, and in this case, in several pages or an entire page. And thanks to these Shurim, difficult passages of Tanya were incredibly elucidated by the Rebbe's choice words, handwritten. Today's Tanya, case in point. Anyway, back to our subject at hand.
Footnote. This used to be on Motzei Shabbos, and the Rebbitzin would always listen to the radio talk shows. Yeah.
Right. And then later years, the Rebbe used to verbringen every Shabbos. He would first begin with the Chazor of one or two sichos and then give the Tanya shir. Yeah. So the paradox here is, I mentioned because this is the subject of Tanya, the lower down you go in the faculties of the nefesh, the deeper they're rooted. So that the last faculty, malchus, which means speech, which is the most external, and action, but primarily speech, the most external expression of a person. You just need words to talk to somebody else. You don't need words, you don't need speech for yourself. It's a means to communicate. In fact, it's called a garment, which implies something very extraneous to the body, the spiritual body of the soul. But as we learn in Chassidus, the paradox that Dafke Malchus is rooted in the soul, in the essence of the soul, far more essentially and deeper than the higher faculties. So the same is true of Midas versus Seichel. So Seichel unlocks Midas. That's what it does. What are you going to love? What are you going to be fearful of? There is this innate capacity of love, of attraction, and of withdrawal. What is it going to be to? That's where intellect. So the intellect develops, so the love is directed and channeled accordingly. But it's not like the intellect actually fundamentally gives birth to the emotion. By birth, we mean we reveal the emotion. The faculty, the power of the emotional attribute is present in the soul, actually rooted deeper than the seichel itself. And that's going to be explored further in the next chapter. At any rate, what is he saying now? Merosh Tzurim. So Tzurim goes on the rocks. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, the mountains or the peaks. Merosh Tzurim goes on their source. So what's this a reference to? It is the way the midas are rooted in the nefesh, higher, completely beyond seichel. When seichel gives birth to them and reveals them, so the emotions are directed and governed by the rationale. When intellect said this is no longer something to be drawn to, attract, or love, then the emotion is redirected. So once intellect gives birth to the emotions are bound by the parameters of the intellectual appreciation of that which is lovable or terrible or fearful. But the source of the midas are limitless. We're talking about the midas of the nefesh alikis. So the midas of the nefesh alikis at their source, love of God and awe of God, goes far beyond rationale. Not I love him because, or I'm in awe of him because. It's an instinctual love and awe of God that is boundless. This is really the avativis that Alter Rebbe speaks about in Tanya from chapter 18 forward. In general, it's this instinctual love that explains there at length that is the source of the fact that Jews, simple Jews, even simple Jews, maybe especially simple Jews, gave up their lives rather than deny God and suffered terrible torture and suffering rather than renounce their faith. This is an innate, essential love that's higher than seichel, and a fear to be severed from him that's higher than seichel. So continuing now. So the Rosh Tzurim means the source of the midas are given. Shamitz mitzad atzma. And since the midas, therefore, as they're plugged into the source or expressive of the source, yesh b'minyan atkifos. So they have this intensity that's not limited by rationale and by seichel, by understanding, by reason. So what's the story here? God says the world's been flooded once and a second time. Now we've finally found the rocky ground, terra firma, upon which I can establish my world. What is it? It's the Rosh Tzurim. What's the Rebbe saying? that we need to unlock the essence of the neshama's love and awe of God. That's the Rosh Tzurim, not simply bound by rationale and contained by rationale. And that is the tkifus to ensure the pull of the Nefesh Bahamis, which is also very passionate and intense and not super, but sub-rationale. You follow? So again, the kivin shad midas atzm, since the midas at their source, yesh beminat kifos have this intensity, this power, rosh surim, higher than seichel, yesh bekoichem lamed neged amayim rabim dolumazeh. So this has the power to withstand the negative waters, which we explained, the salty waters of the nefesh abamis, nefesh alikis, shematzifim, that threaten to flood our avodah and flood the world. And don't allow to establish the foundation, which means the mitzvahs that create the foundation for the home, for Hashem, the Medina, which God desires. This way, through invoking the Rosh Tzurim within each one of us, so we can build the Medina and withstand the pull and the temptation and so on of the Nefesh Bahamis. What does it mean in Avodah Sha'ol? The Meir Ba'atzmai. Again, this is Takapere Yud Ches and Tanya. That a person needs to arouse within himself that which every Jew naturally inherits from the Avos, the Tzurim. And that's this innate, instinctual love. A love that cannot be extinguished. This is this natural hidden love. That not only is it love, but it also awe and fear of God. The fear to be cut off. The fear to be severed. Klolos HaMidas, and these two midas, Av and Chesed, at their root, embrace all the midas. And we're talking about the way these midas are invoked and expressed from their source. The head, the Rosh Tzurim, which is, as he concludes, which this means an avodah, a devotion that's beyond rationale, beyond my understanding, beyond my appreciation, beyond my mood. And it's this intense ava and yira of Hashem that's able to combat the Nefesh Bahamis and transform it. If our avodah is going to be rational and what makes sense and what I understand and what appeals to me and what is logical, the Nefesh Bahamis will just wash it all away with its swirling waters of desire and anger and whatever the Nefesh Bahamis is feeling at the present moment. Sloth, laziness, whatever. But how do we meet the Nefesh Bahamis? I'm using the word swirling waters because this is the Mayim Rabbi speaks of in Shir HaShirim. So what meets that and is able to tame the Nefesh Bahamis and transform it is an equally or even greater intense emotion, namely the very source of the midas of the Nefesh Alikis, the Rosh Tzurim, the instinctual, innate love and awe that we all have for Hashem that we need to unlock. Let's continue. Clear? Yeah? Little heads up. Okay, good. We go further. Page 175. In the Tzurim. So till that we spoke about Tzurim, the forefathers of Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. As the pasuk says, Merosh Tzurim Ereno. From the top of the mountains I see him. But then he continues in his prophetic vision and he says, the hills. I behold him from the hills. Who are the hills? So the Alter explains in the Kotetayra, Shegvois, hills, and Madrigoson, manifestedly, they are lamatem b'chinas harem, lower than mountains, right? Mountain, a hill. So bear with me, friends. So the hills refer to the mothers. That the mountains and the hills are the fathers and the mothers. I just want to give you a heads up where this is going. Now, so far we're stating, okay, this is a lower level. There's mountains and there's a lower level. But as we will see, Dafka, the lower level is where it's at. the mothers, not the fathers. I don't say not the fathers, but the mother taking from the father and deepening the connection, as will be explained. So bear with me, bear with the mind. So first of all, the hills receive, as it were, from the mountains, as the mother, the female, receives from the male. Now, what kind of emotion is that? They're both emotions. We just said now that the Avos are Rosh Tzurim. The Avos express the source of the midah in natural and intrinsic and instinctive intensity. What's the emotion expressed by the Imois? Now we're going to see it's going to externally be lower, but we'll see the paradox, it's higher. That comes at the end of the ice. Let's embark on our journey. So what's the level of the voice of the mothers? Here we're talking about a love not from the inner instinctual essence of the heart, but the external conscious level of the heart. A kind of love that is born from understanding and appreciation and rationale. This is quite interesting, that in the contrast between the Avos and the Imois, what emerges here is that the Avos are driven by this instinctual emotion, and it's the mother, the female, that the emotions are expressed in rationale, in understanding, in appreciation, in seichel. More about this later. So again, the gvo is the mother. That emotion is an emotion that is born from intellect. But mountains, that is a love that is higher than intellect. And that will explain the choice of words, the precise choice of words employed here as he sees the Avos and the Imois. When it comes to the Avos, he says, Ki Merosh Tzurim areno, I see him. When it comes to the hills, Ashureno, I behold him. There's seeing and there's beholding. What's the difference? Let's see. When it comes to the Tzurim, the Avos, it uses the Lashon HaPasuk is Areno, I see. Voice and the hills, Nemar Ashureno, I behold. What's the difference? The Targum, the Aramaic translation of the Shenu, Sekise, which means, as he will explain, a close look. It's an intense, close-up look, like examine almost. As he goes to explain now, as the Re'iyah is a distance, you see it. Ashereno is close up. So there's, as he goes on to explain, there's an external connection and an intimate connection. The more external one, powerful, but external, are the Avos. The Imois, internalized and intimate. As he goes on to explain, the difference between seeing is as follows. Rashi explains, Parshas Chukas, the context there, he saw him. Haino, says Rashi, Re'iyah ba'alma. You see, but doesn't mean you're deeply engaged. V'hibit, but looking, seeing and looking maybe, that's a better translation. V'hibit hainu mabid be'bekavona. When you're looking at something, you're looking with focus and concentration. You're not simply observing, seeing, but you're engaged. V'chein is b'medesh, and likewise you find in Medesh. Habota mikorev. Habota means close up. And that's why if you're close up, you're looking with focus and with intensity. But seeing is from a distance. And that's why Rashi said it's just seeing. Just, the word just, meaning not deeply engaged, observing. So now we're going to see that the inyan of the Moishe is this intimate, deeper connection to Hashem, or to the depth of the neshama. The matter is follows Tzurim, the level of Tzurim. On the one hand, we said it goes on the midas which are higher than intellect. And we said it's very intense, super rational. But since it's higher than intellect, the downside of that is, I see it, it evokes and creates a relationship of intensity, yes, but still not personal, deep, internalized engagement with the Eibishter, with the depth of our neshama. Because it's not grasped intellectually, it's not internalized. It's makif. Powerful, but makif, external. It's like seeing something. I'm here and the thing is there. Whereas Ashtereno is a close-up look. So what he's saying is that notwithstanding the virtue to midas, which are higher than seichel, but on some level I'm not fully engaged. I'm pushed, I'm driven. My mind, in fact, is overridden often. I don't understand why. But because of my midas, and I don't appreciate this, but because my midas, the source, which are higher than seichel, are revealed, so it's going to sweep along and override the objection or the question, ignoring it, and ignoring even the external part of the heart that says, I need to really feel this in a personal way. The source, when revealed, ignores all of that. It's a starting point, but after the tachlis avodah. Just to conclude the point that I want the Maimon to say it for us, Hashem wants an intimate personal relationship. So understand me and feel me with every part of you, down to your conscious mind and the conscious heart, which needs to feel and appreciate in a uniquely personal way. So as they will explain, it's the others who take from the imas, the imos, which bring the love down. This is really the content of that tetzava maimah, bringing that essential love down into the mind and into the external conscious dimensions of the heart, that therein the true connection and the lasting connection remains. Let's see it in the words of the maimah.
Is it like the difference between a klal and prat? When you see it by the others, I see it generally, but I can't pinpoint it in it's like mazalayu chazi, and
right.
And over here it's changing the form of the person, which is a more detailed one.
Exactly. Yeah. Klal prat or makif and pnimi. Yeah. And this is friends with the mind we were all studying yesterday. The two levels of emunah. The low level is the makif one. But the deeper emunah comes from the etzem neshama. And when that's unlocked, it's bepnimius. Then seichel,
because it comes from a place that is not morkiv. It's not.
It's the real
limited.
I.
It's limited to being beyond. It could even go into a pnimi.
Right. In simple language, as the Maim explains it, when we unlock the I am a Jew, the core of the I am, rather than I feel Jewish or see Jewish, but I am Jewish, then that is expressed in every detail of my manifested being. So it's the imois he's explaining here, which is the avodah of bringing that ava into something intimate that I understand and feel. Really, that's drawn from where? The essence. So the essence. So there's three levels now we're saying. There's essence, then there is transcendence, and then there's immanence. Immanence means indwelling. Externally, we're going lower and lower. The essence, and then the makif, and then the pnimi. But it's only the pnimi that really touches the essence, that draws on the essence. Even though the makif is much more powerful, the hu-ha, the rash, and the tumul of the ovis, but the much quieter, settled, internalized, personal love and understanding and appreciation which is the union of Malchus, the feminine, this intimate connection, really connecting, that draws on the core essence of the neshama. Okay, this is also, this is what the chassan, the Maimah before the Badekin talks about. In the L'Chadaydi, it's dafkin, the pnimis, the connection, as opposed to the makiv, that the essence is truly engaged. Which the Maimah of Atat Tetzaveh, there's no Maimah like it. No Maimah like the Atat Tetzaveh that exquisitely lays this bare and explains it layer after layer, and the whole dynamic of the essence of the neshama on the end, the details, the protim of our lives. But let's see it in the Maimah. It's already, okay, finish the sentence, and then today's story. So fall 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines in the bottom of page 175. If you have the sefer. So the intense midas taka of one of the others is very powerful, but it's merosh, it's seeing, it's distant, meaning to say it drives me, but it isn't internalized. It's distant from me, from my consciousness, my mind, and my heart that I feel. That defines my conscious being. That's about the hills. That's an internalized feeling that the mind has appreciated, the intimate, experiential, personally experienced connection. Here the pasuk says, not I see, but I look. The word I used before, look. Close. This is something which is grasped, understood and grasped by the person. That's like looking something closely and with focus and with understanding. We'll continue this, Be'ez Hashem, on Monday. As is our custom, we share a story each
Can
morning.
I just ask a quick question, just to clarify something? When you're talking here about like the lowest point being Malchus is in essence the highest rooted in Hashem, right?
The lowest is always rooted deeper, yeah. So Malchus, which is the lowest, the feminine, is rooted mamish in essence, yeah.
So then when we're talking here about this Ava Rabbah, and I'm projecting now, Teshuvah, right? So we're essentially, if this is relating to Tanya, or what we learned in Tanya, we're talking about the avoda of a tzaddik and a rasha.
He's not talking to Shuvah here. This is not
But
Shuvah.
you were talking about accessing and essentially taking the nefesh habahamis, the kochos of the nefesh habahamis, and accessing it and using it towards kedusha.
Yeah. So the first thing is, Teshuvah basically is when you mess up. Here he's speaking at the outset, bavarnen, to see that we don't fall in the first place. And for that, it's the midas of the enough, it's sufficient to draw on the midas embodied by the others. Now, once a person has transgressed and been swept, and the foundations we put in place have been swept away, then taketshuva. But we're not speaking of that yet.
So that's essentially my question: is where does the Beinani fit in this? This is really the avoda of the Beinani then.
This is the ideal Beinani. Here's the roadmap for a successful conquest. Chapter 18 of Tanya, going forward from Perek Yitches to unlock the instinctual love embodied by the office. If you maintain that successfully, you're good to go. What happens if you don't? Then we need a deeper avodah, tshuva.
Okay.